Hello everyone, TLSG here, back again with another Daily Marvel Snap video. So today we had the update where Sandman got changed. It's a little early to tell whether it's a buff or a nerf, but what I can say is that he slots much better now into an electro ramp style deck. Before, you never really wanted to electro ramp into a Sandman because it was going to be a low tempo play following up an electro play, and so it just never really felt like much value. However, now you can electro ramp into your Sandman, you still get 5 power on the board, and then a lot of decks are getting really greedy on their last turn plays. So the She-Hulk and Infinite combo, sometimes Thanos decks, a lot of times Shuri decks that want to run a 5 cost and a 1 cost on the last turn, so like a Sauron version of the Shuri deck, and then just a number of other cards that want to do several things on the last couple of turns. And so I think Sandman gets a decent amount of value. It has felt really good in this build. I will say that while recording this, I left out 3 games. 2 were losses because we didn't draw either of our early game components in the Electro or the Thor. So we retreated out for 1 cube, not necessarily an exciting gameplay. And then the last one was a bot game, and so we beat them for 4 cubes. But I didn't want to include it because it's not really relevant to actual play. Otherwise, we left in all of the recorded games, and we had some decent luck with this build. I tried out a couple of different Electro ramp decks, and this one has felt the most solid. Now, the core idea behind this build doesn't come from me. It comes from Dunkoro, someone that I haven't seen much of since the game launched. But whenever Black Panther was first released, this was his kind of bread and butter build. This was what he came up with, and I ran this up until the meta started shifting into counterplays with like Cosmo and Arrow. So those can be disruptive to this deck, but I feel like with the Sandman, you alleviate a lot of that stress because you're not leaning so heavily into the Wong, into Black Panther, into Arnim Zola playline. That is just one of the many play paths that this deck has. And so ideally you want to ramp into your high value cards. You could do Thor on 3, and then Wong, Black Panther, and then an Arnim Zola on 6. You could ramp into a Black Panther on 4 with your Electro, into an Arnim Zola on 5, into an Odin, into the Arnim Zola lane on 6. You could always just do a Hail Mary Jubilee, which is sometimes going to help thin your deck and get you the resources that you need. You could do Sandman into a Doctor Doom, into an Odin to spread power all across the board while the opponent can only play 1 card per turn. You could even potentially go wide with like a Wong and a White Tiger into an Odin, which would pretty much just fill up the rest of your board with 7 power Tiger tokens. And so overall, a very flexible list, but with the brief deck explanation out of the way, let's go ahead and jump over into a couple of games. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, first up we have Kaladin. In our starting hand, we do have our Electro. We have White Tiger if we want to go with that kind of play path. We have Devil Dino. We also have the Isle of Silence, which is going to be pretty interesting here. We can do Electro into the Isle of Silence. We won't be restricted on that turn, but it won't necessarily matter for us. We could play multiple cards, but we're going to play as many as we can. So I think, depending on what we draw, Jubilee lost a lot of value and a lot of potency because of Subterranea. And so I think what we want to do, we will probably play into our Sandman here, because it looks like they're running a junk deck, and we want to stop them from being able to do a major flood. So I don't know, I'm back and forth. I almost want to play Sandman over here and just guarantee that we hit the Green Goblin to go back here and here. But we could also make it split, so we could hit either one. Either one is going to be fine. The Sandman going here, that's fine. Ooh, the Wong is interesting. They are only going to be able to play 1 card per turn now. And so hopefully they're wanting to do some kind of big, greedy payoff, and we're going to block them from it. They ended up retreating. As soon as they saw the Sandman come down, they do retreat. We do get the cheeky game blocking effect, which is beautiful. I'm guessing it was some kind of hazmat or debris or just junk deck in general, and that typically wants to play a lot of small cards towards the end of the game. So that is beautiful. We will take our first win. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. Next up, we have Zathams. The first location is Hala, so we're probably going to avoid playing there because we don't have any really great early game tempo cards, unless we play our Electro there and then maybe angle for it to get destroyed. We typically don't need to play more than 1 card per turn anyways, so it getting destroyed I guess wouldn't necessarily matter. Ooh, and then we go into Limbo, so we're going to get some extra turns to make value out of our Sandman play here. So we are going to do the Electro. Next turn we can do Sandman, depending on if they push into Hollow or not. If they don't push into Hollow this turn, we could probably be safe playing our Sandman there, knowing that they're going to play away from that location because they don't want to accidentally destroy our electro. If I was them, I'd be in a scenario where I'm thinking, we're going to make sure that they're stuck with that ability. And so I think we're going to lean into that. It's a little bit gambly, but I think the read is solid. We're going to do the Sandman. Next turn, we could do a Doctor Doom. We can eventually do an Odin. Maybe we do a Black Panther, a Doctor Doom, and then an Odin in that same lane to push into all of the other locations. But I don't think... Oh, I was so wrong. Okay, so they play armor. So I was wrong and right at the same time. So they played armor so that they can make sure that our electro does not get destroyed. But now they are limited to the same deficit and same downside that we are. So we have 3 turns left. Do we play Black Panther here? We know that they ran armor. Whatever they play next is not going to have its ability. They can't do a Cosmo on us this turn, or are likely to not be able to do a Cosmo on us this turn. It's either this or we do Wong. I think we lean into the Black Panther playline. Black Panther, we could then do our Doctor Doom, maybe. The Red Skull, the abilityless Red Skull is massive. And so we do get the Arnim Zola here, so that's a pretty big one. Do we think they're going to use... I don't think they're going to use an arrow. I think they would be much more inclined to use a Taskmaster here, and then maybe an arrow on the last turn. I think we're going to sneak in the Arnim Zola play. We're going to push our Black Panther to the left and into mid, and then we can see what we need to do. Whether that be an Odin onto Arnim Zola, maybe it becomes a Doctor Doom. I don't know. Oh, wow. Into a Shuri. Wow. So they're going to have 7 energy next turn. And they'll have the double powered play. So it could be an arrow plus something else. No, it can't be an arrow plus something else. All they can do is drop 1 card here because of our Sandman. I forgot about our Sandman bonus. I was thinking it was going to be arrow and like Titania, but if I'm them, the arrow play probably pulls into, I guess, limbo. I don't know. I think they lose this one every single time. We're going to go ahead and play Odin into the Arnim Zola lane. If they do an arrow play, that's not great. If they do a She-Hulk, we outpower it in mid. A Typhoid Mary, we outpower in mid. A Shang-Chi, actually. Does this Shuri deck run a Shang-Chi? Actually, no. The Odin would outpower it. So we're fine. Even the 6 power. No, so the Atuma. And it is not quite going to be enough. We have the 47 power to outpower the Red Skull. We have the 36 in mid. And we bring home the Shuri game. I don't know how much of that attests to the Sandman clogging up their board. It's one of those things that you never necessarily know for sure. But I do think they probably would have been able to play a little bit more flexibly had Sandman not been on the board. So we will take the 2 cubes. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Sinclair, and we have the Sandman in our starting hand again. The vault location is going to be decently interesting because we do have multiple ways that we can go wide. Okay, so they're running a Korg. They could be running a Hawk deck. Maybe they're running the tech version of Hawk that runs the like Sarah and counter components, in addition to the Korg, the Rock Slide, Zabu, those sorts of things. So we're going to do our Electro here. That's going to allow us to do a Jubilee on turn 3, which we normally couldn't do, but thanks to Tinker's Workshop, we'll actually be able to squeeze it out. We could do the Jubilee on 3, the Sandman on 4, into just whatever else we think is going to be the most beneficial. Oh, that's tough. That is that is not what you want to see. So the Subterranea hurts a lot. Anytime you see Korg, most of the time they have a Hawk to back it up. Hopefully they don't. Ooh, the Doctor Doom pull with Jubilee is pretty decent, especially considering that we had 5 rocks in our deck. We'll take it. I'm okay with that. Since we're not going to be able to play there on turn 6, I think we do Sandman into the middle this turn. They skipped last turn. After this turn, they'll only be able to play 1 card. So if they are going with the Zabu or the Sarah version where they want to play a couple of cards on the last couple of turns, we're going to make it so that they can't do that. And so we do get the Odin value here. So we're going to be able to re-trigger our Doctor Doom to go here and here. This is phenomenal. They could play a Hawk here potentially, and 8 power is not much to overcome here, to overcome if they make another play in the vault lane, but it's decent. This is not a terrible play by any means. And so let's go ahead and play the Odin. That is a beautiful top deck. knowing that we've put them in a tricky spot as well, because a Hawk is 4 cost. Copying it with Mystique, that's 3, but they can only do that turn. They can't buff it up or reinforce it with any other cards. And so they do play the Hawk in the far right lane. It is 22 power, but we have the left lane locked down. And I think we can just win the right lane with a Dino, right? 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11. We outpower the right lane with just a Dino. So what if they, for some reason, have an Arnim Zola? That'd be super wacky to have. But if they had Arnim Zola, it'd be 20 and 20. Do we ever play our Devil Dino into this location just in case? I haven't seen any decks run that, but just in case, if they do a Shang-Chi, they're only going to take this one out. I don't think they can win. I expect the retreat here. Yep, we do get the retreat coming down. We put them in a tricky spot. We should have snapped once we realized we had a pretty good hand. But I'm still feeling the deck out compared to the meta, compared to some of these other matches, to figure out when it is best to snap. But that one does feel good. So far, the Sandman has felt very, very solid. Let's go ahead and take the 1 cube and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Melon Buffet. The first location is Fisk Tower, so if we ever move any cards, if the opponent runs something like an arrow and they're going to try to move our card into Fisk Tower, we have some potential issues. We do have Jubilee so that we can play into Death's Domain. We have our White Tiger that could potentially push it to the side. We have our Electro and our Sandman portions of our combos, which are going to be phenomenal for us. They skip into... Wow, this is an awkward game for most decks, but for ours, it's fine. We're going to go ahead and snap. We're going to play the Electro. Next turn, we can do Sandman. We could follow that up on the next turn with maybe a White Tiger, maybe a Jubilee here. Depending on what we draw into, we'll determine when and where and how we play our next couple of turns. But because of these locations, I think we're perfectly fine. They play an Electro, so they're running a ramp deck as well. Melon Buffet. You could be running the Sandman. You could be running the Sandman tech. I know a lot of people are testing it out today, trying to find the best possible build for him. And so I'm gonna be curious. If you are. So the Sunspot is more in line with a more tempo heavy, so something that runs like an armor and a couple of other low cost drops, so something like an Ebony Maw. Ooh, they do go with their Sandman. And so anticipating that they might be going the Sandman path, we did play our Wong instead of our Sandman. So now we can go White Tiger and push some power into maybe Sanctum Sanctorum, maybe Death's Domain. And then if we top deck into our Odin, beautiful. If we top deck into Dr. Doom, also beautiful. That's a little bit less beautiful, my friend. Like the arrow card is fine in and of itself. But actually, that's okay. We keep power in Death's Domain. We keep power in Sanctum Sanctorum. And then we get the beautiful top deck of the Dr. Doom. So they gambled on... Wow. I don't know. That was a little bit risky of an arrow play, knowing that it was going to destroy their card. And that it wasn't going to destroy ours. We're okay going Dr. Doom. So they could go a Dr. Doom of their own, but ours is going to double trigger here. I think we get the retreat. We get the cheeky retreat. Let's go ahead and take that win. We'll jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Poopstead. The first location is Wakanda. We do have our Dr. Doom and Odin combo. We also have Arnim Zola, so if we get Wong and Black Panther, we could go with that playline instead of the ramp component. But it really depends on what we draw into. We could also go with Wong into Dr. Doom into an Odin to just flood all of the board, all of the lane with at least 20 power. And Morag is actually pretty decently interesting for us. Ooh, okay. More interesting than what I was originally thinking. So Morag with the Sandman is going to be really, really impressive here. We're going to be able to lock them into 1 card per turn after next turn. And so if they don't push anything into Morag before then, we have the okay, so they pushed it into this turn. My bad. So we're going to have the advantage of having the Dr. Doom that can push that power into that lane. And so we're going to lock them out with Sandman. Hopefully we can get some additional value. I know we get at least 10 if we do the Dr. Doom and then the Odin. We're not going to be able to do the Black Panther into Arnim Zola this game because we can't play it into the Goose Lane. But we can do our Dr. Doom into Odin to push power into all 3 locations. We could do White Tiger into Odin, but that's going to be less power on the board overall. But let's see where they play. So they play the Juggernaut into Atlantis, which is fine. The Hood into Atlantis, which is interesting. I don't know what you're going with, my friend. The Hood in a almost capped out lane is so surprising. So now Oh, they were going with the, I think they were going with the Dirty 30 maybe. So the deck that runs Moon Girl, it runs Hood for the Demon token, maybe Titania, maybe She-Hulk, so that they could skip 1/5 into flooding the board on 6. I think Sandman really disrupted what they want to do here. So we're going to have the Doctor Doom. They're going to know that they have lost Morag, and I wouldn't be surprised if they don't retreat here. But I also, okay, we do get the retreat coming down, but I didn't want to slow play it just in case they had something like a Cosmo that would block us out from doing the Doctor Doom. But that one is satisfying. That one feels good. We snapped early. We took advantage of knowing the locations and what we were about to play. We will take it, and with that one, we are going to go ahead and end the video here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. What brews have you been trying out, or what have you seen with Sandman that has been successful or feels really strong, or any of the other buffed or changed cards? The next card that I'm interested in trying out, besides Stature, is Absorbing Man. I'm curious how impactful he can be in certain archetypes. But I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. As always, this has been TLSG. Later, guys.